Hey there. I made a Perfume ad to force myself to finally tackle things I've been avoiding: product animation, camera work, and real sound design. I also don't know what kind of channel I want yet, and this felt more interesting than gaming edits or tutorials I get bored of quickly. I chose Oh So Heavenly because I already use and genuinely like their products. That made it easier to lock in a mood, lighting, and color palette so I could jump straight into creating. A few notes before we start: I'm not a pro. I'm not an animator, I barely know keyframes. I'm not a sound designer. Everything you'll see was figured out as I went. If you're expecting a polished tutorial, you're in the wrong place. This is a fan-made project. Oh So Heavenly is not affiliated with, involved in, or endorsing this work in any way. There's no sponsorship or partnership. It's purely for practice and portfolio purposes. So with all that out of the way, let's start at day 1. I started looking for products I could recreate on at the Oh So Heavenly website. The website was full of products, and at first I was indecisive, so I set a simple rule. Pick the one product that gives me the shot types I want to practice. Bottle, box, and a little graphic sticker, the Strawberry Kisses perfume, fit that perfectly. With the product out of the way, it was time to go reference hunting. I used Pinterest to grab packaging shots, studio product photos, lifestyle imagery, and even some perfume ad stills. Then I dumped everything into PureRef. If you don't use PureRef, try it. Now came the texturing. I started by opening Figma, mostly because it's way faster for label mockups than trying to do everything in Blender. For the logo, I straight up yoinked from their site and used it. Look, I'm not using this for anything commercial, I'm just trying to match the vibe for practice, so Oh So Heavenly, if you're watching this, please don't sue me. The rest of the packaging was all me though. I changed the product fonts, and I used a PNG to SVG tool for the strawberry artwork. I then moved to Blender, and I started modeling with basic primitives, mostly cubes, scaled and beveled, which was fairly simple. I time-lapsed most of the modeling because it's fun to watch back and also because it's honest. Now, onto the shading. Shading the glass was my first real fight. To make it look like a real product, I couldn't just use one setting for everything. For the cap, I used a glass BSDF node with its own specific IOR or index of refraction to give it that solid plastic glass look. But for the main bottle, I actually had to get a bit more technical. I used a principled BSDF node, cranked the transmission up to 1, and set the IOR to something different from the cap. I did this so the light would bend differently as it passes through the bottle compared to the cap, which adds that layer of realism. Plus, using the principled BSDF for the bottle was a lifesaver for the label. It allowed me to bake in the image texture for the product text without the glass nodes making it look all wonky. It was all about balancing how the light hits the surface versus how it reveals the label. I modeled and textured the box of the perfume. The box was just a cube with bevels, nothing fancy. But here's the thing, sharp edges ruin realism. In real life, nothing is infinitely sharp. Even cardboard has thickness and wear. So I added small bevels everywhere. Not enough to notice directly, but enough for the light to catch. That's the trick, light reveals geometry. I also wanted to add strawberries, since the product is called Strawberry Kisses. I looked up tutorials on YouTube for modeling strawberries, but it was 1 AM and I didn't want to do it from scratch, so I downloaded a model from Sketchfab made by this artist and tweaked the shaders to match my vibe. No shame in that. Then, sound entered the chat. Up until this point, I thought sound would be the last step. Add music, add whooshes, done. I was wrong. I opened FL Studio for the first time with zero experience and I felt completely out of place. And at first, I was only mixing on speakers, which was a mistake. I had to restart the mix on both the headphones and speaker to get the balance right. I didn't make a full track, I just grabbed the jazz track from Pixabay for the luxury vibe, added sound effects like perfume spray, glass clinks, ambient noise, and box opening sounds, layers on layers. This is what I came up with. Something's missing. I needed a voice. Something deep, seductive, like a Perfume narrator. I tried multiple AI voice generators like Speechma and Speechify. Nothing worked. Eventually, Google's AI labs had a voice that felt human enough. I mixed it all in and this is what I came up with.
A refined blend of fresh strawberries and delicate warmth. Elegant, subtle, and unforgettable. Oh So Heavenly Strawberry Kisses, sweetness that stays.
With music, sound effects, and voice locked, I finally started animating. I imported the audio into Blender so I could sync the shots to the music. Up until now, everything looked decent as long as it didn't move. The second I animated anything, it immediately felt cheap, and that's when I realized something important. I'm ass at this. My camera work was robotic, like it was being dragged through space. I had to learn that cinematic motion follows curves, not straight lines. I used empties to control the camera's focus and tracking, ensuring the bottle stayed sharp. I also realized that most of the animation was too fast. Slowing the rotation down made the bottle feel heavy and expensive. As soon as the camera and bottle started moving, the lighting started misbehaving. Highlights slid across the glass in ways I didn't expect. Some reflections blew out, others disappeared, and instead of fixing the bottle, I fixed the lights. I adjusted light size and distance so reflections moved more gradually. Bigger lights, softer transitions, smaller lights, harsh, distracting streaks. I didn't finish any shots on this day. Well, at least not really. I just got one sequence to feel, right? And that alone took most of the day. Day 4 is where I thought, okay, I've got momentum, let me push this. That was my first mistake. The music mix I had made in FL Studio had this soft, fabric-like texture to it. So naturally my brain went, what if the perfume box is covered by cloth and it pulls away to reveal the product? Long story short, I spent hours and hours on a cloth simulation, revealed it just looked like a floaty napkin instead of silk. So I tweaked the settings, added more subdivisions, different collision thickness, and different material values. After a lot of adjustments, it finally behaved, not perfectly, but well enough. Then I lit it, and everything fell apart again. I spent hours trying to fix it, changing light angles, softening shadows, and re-rendering tests over and over. At some point, I realized I wasn't improving the shot. I thought, is this actually good? Or do I just want it to be good because I spent a lot of time on it? Trying to save the cloth shot again, I wasn't ready to let the cloth go yet. So I tried it again, at a different angle, in a different environment. For a moment, I thought I had it. Then I got stuck on a transition, the background fading from black to white as the cloth pulled away. I kept tweaking it, softening it, and stretching it. I spent hours on that transition alone. And eventually, I had to scratch it, and that decision hurt more than any technical problem. After all that chaos, I did something boring. I placed the perfume on a table. I added a simple camera push and a slow orbit. Originally, the table had a wood texture and it looked cheap. I swapped it out for a cloth texture instead, almost as a joke. And somehow, it worked. But the lighting still fought me. There were black artifacts in the glass I couldn't fully remove. But at that point, I chose acceptance over perfection. I tried another strawberry focus shot with the camera rotating around a single strawberry. It felt unsettling, almost horror-like instead of luxury. So I scrapped it and reused it for the trailer. By the end of day 4, I was exhausted. I hadn't slept properly and most of my energy went into shots that didn't survive. At this point, I wasn't excited anymore. Day 4 taught me something important. Effort doesn't impress the render engine and it definitely doesn't impress the viewer. So going into day 5, I wasn't trying to be flashy. I just wanted things to work, and ironically, that's when things finally started clicking. I went back to a spray animation I hated and, as a joke, dropped it into a forest environment. Even though I blurred the background, the natural light breakup finally made it feel real. This was one of those accidental wins. No planning, just curiosity. Later that day, I moved on to what would become the final shot of the ad, clean white background inspired by the brand's website. After that, I decided to take a break, and I watched a YouTube video showing a clever way to use Blender's array modifier to create a spinning product motion. Most of the creative decisions were already made, which meant what was left was technical cleanup, refinement, and problem solving. And honestly, that's usually the least fun part. I finally got the milk simulation to work by stripping it down and realizing that realism only matters where the camera can see it. I also lost hours to a technical glitch where the bottle refused to rotate on its local axis, but it was spinning around the world instead. It wasn't dramatic, it was just a quiet, stubborn fight with Blender's transformations until it finally clicked. I focused on the intro scene, dark background, rim lights reveal the silhouette, and a fade in to fully reveal the bottle. Then the camera pushes into the sprayer and transitions into scene 1. Full transparency, this intro was inspired by another artist. I reworked the final scene properly this time. I carried over the bottle's rotation from the cloud scene into the final shot. That tiny continuity made the whole sequence feel intentional instead of stitched together. I showed the final render to my sisters. They both said the same thing almost immediately.
It's too bright.
And I hated that they were right. I had been staring at this project for so long that my eyes had adapted to it. So I pulled the lights down, reduced the intensity. I did the grading in Photoshop. I didn't record it because honestly it wasn't that interesting. At this point, I realized that documenting every single click mattered less than actually finishing strong. And man, I documented a lot. But seeing their folder size made me realize how much work had gone into this. When everything was finally done, I rendered out the final version and washed it one last time.
A refined blend of fresh strawberries and delicate warmth. Elegant, subtle, and unforgettable. Oh, so heavenly strawberry kisses. Sweetness that stays.